23-17 or something of that nature, and that's where the Mets are at the moment. They got to go on a major run, and if they get between 4 and 5 games of a wild card spot, guess who we play in September? We got the Reds, we got the Cubs, we got the Marlins as well. So it's teams that we're facing that are in front of us. And that's the most important thing you have to look at. If you're a pessimistic Met fan or an optimistic Met fan, the fact of the matter is, mathematically, they're in it. Reality is, can they actually do it? I don't know if they're going to have enough pitching to do it. The offense that's shown what they can do last year, they were underperforming for most of this year. So you expect the offense to come together at some point. But the pitching is where you're going to concern, because if the Mets do find their way to make a run in the middle of September, who's pitching for this team? You got Quintana and you got Senga. Other than that, you got Peterson, McGill, and Carrasco. You're not feeling confident in that, and that's where the Mets are at the moment. And the bullpen, you got a bunch of, guys, the Bickfords, the Coonrods, those type of pitchers. Can they be surprising in this bullpen? Who knows? But it was a nice quality win for the New York Mets. They got to continue it. Take the series against the Braves. You win series here on out, you might actually have a chance, because the National League isn't very good. And I beat the drum to this over and over again. The New York Mets, if you put them together, are they really as bad as those other teams? They're probably just as good, if not better. And that's not saying much with the rotation that the Mets have at the moment. But you win series, all you can hope for is the teams beat up on each other. And that's the most important thing. Again, for the last 2 weeks of the season, you got the Marlins and the Phillies. There's one-year opportunities there. You got the Cubs and Cincinnati coming up. So you're going to be facing the teams that are basically going back and forth in the wild card. If it's not the Cubs, it's the Giants. If it's not the Reds or whatever team in the Central going into that wild card spot, you have opportunities to do it. All you got to do is continue to win series. And again, maybe this team gets a boast of confidence taking 2 out of 3 against the Braves, even though the Braves aren't really playing for nothing, even though they're playing for the best record. If you could take 2 out of 3, maybe that helps their confidence even more coming back home to face the Angels and the Rangers. And that's something that you have to look at as well. Again, I'm not very optimistic, but mathematically there's a chance. I think there's 37 games left after today, or 36 games left after today. They got to go on a major run. They got to play at least 12, 13 games over 500 the rest of the way to even give themselves a slight chance of making this wild card spot. But again, it is possible, not because of the really, really, really good Mets play, but the really, really bad, mediocre play by the rest of the National League that is trying for that third wild card spot. Again, there hasn't been a lot. The teams that, like the Reds, the teams like the Giants, the teams like, the Cubs, those are teams that it's not like they had like a month of a great stretch. They had a 2-week stretch where they were extremely good, and that's how they got back into this race. Other than that, they were 6-4, 4-6, 2-8, 3-7 in their 10 games. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it actually is. And it's funny to me because I don't believe in any of those teams in the National League, including the Mets. So whoever wins that third wild card, and I said it on the Mets Roundtable earlier tonight, the New York Mets, or any team that is at third wild card spot, is going to face the team that wins the NL Central. Because the Dodgers and the Braves are going to have that first round bye. So any of those teams can be any of those division winners in the Central, because they're not very good. They've, the Brewers, they got decent pitching, but their offense isn't very good. The Reds, you worry about their offense, don't really have good pitching. The Cubs got okay pitching, and you worry about their lineup, right? The Padres can be dangerous because they do got a rotation and they do got a scary lineup, but they can't get out of their own way. So who is it? The Giants. The Mets, who were really bad, actually beat the Giants. And I think the Mets could beat the Giants. So it is what it is at this point. It would be nice if the Mets go make a run, because there's no reason why they can't beat a team like the Brewers, the Reds, or the Cubs, or whoever decides to win that Central. It is possible. That goes along with the other teams that are going to make that third wild card. It is interesting to look at because the Mets basically sold their rotation, and they're playing this is probably the best stretch they played all season. And this is with no rotation. This is with no Marte. This is with a bullpen that every day it seems like there's a new name in the bullpen. Bickford has been looking good. You see Drew Smith pitching okay. Raley and Ottavino is probably your main guys. I mean, it's basically a closer by committee at this point. It is very interesting to see. But the good news is the Mets won tonight, and that's a start. Again, who cares about beating the Cardinals? Who cares about beating the Pirates? You're supposed to beat those teams. Show me something in this Braves series. I don't think you could sweep the Braves. It would be awesome to sweep them, but take 2 out of 3 and come back home and take your chances there, because then that Angels and Rangers series is going to probably go into that month of September if you're really going to have a chance. I mean, again, if you're within 4 or 5 games of that third wild card spot, you got the Reds, and we're going to go over the schedule really quickly just to give you guys a look at it really quick. Say if the Mets take 2 out of 3 against the Braves, that's nice. Finally, you take a series against them. It took long enough. But if you look at it, you got the Angels, the Rangers, and the Mariners all at home. That's not easy. The Angels have fallen off, so maybe you can beat them. No problem. The Rangers looking really good, and the Mariners are one of the hottest teams in baseball. That's not going to be an easy series at home. But after that, you got Washington, Minnesota, Arizona, Cincinnati, Miami. Again, after the Minnesota series, Arizona in front of the Mets, Cincinnati in front of the Mets, Miami and Philadelphia the rest of the way for the rest of the season. That's where the Mets are. That's why it's frustrating that they sucked so badly in June, because they had September in their grasp, because they had all the teams in front of them that they had to worry about. And again, it's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. Yeah, I agree. Lee, listen, I agree. They can't tank. But you know what? If they don't tank, it is what it is at this point. Make the playoffs. Figure out a way. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if we have no rotation. I'll take my chances, because you just never know. You just never know. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But it'll be fun to think about. And just to have a September to look forward to. Because, again, guys, the month of September, after Seattle, you play Washington for 2 in Washington, and then you go to Minnesota. Minnesota's not a very good team. They're a 500 team. The Mets can beat them. And I'll be in Minnesota with the 7 line cheering them on. So it would be nice if going into Minnesota, the Mets are within 4 games of a wild card, maybe even 5 games of a wild card. Because if they're within 4 or 5 games of a wild card, again, Arizona, Cincinnati, Miami, Philadelphia, Miami, Philadelphia. That's how you end the season. 1, 2, 3 teams that are in front of you for a wild card spot. That's your opportunity. So once again, guys, this is going to be a quick stream because it is only a post game. So the New York Mets beat the Atlanta Braves in game 1 of the series, 10-4. Lindor, DJ Stewart, Pete Alonso, everybody looked good. Nimmo, everybody looked good offensively. Let's see if they can take it into tomorrow, because that's been their big problem, especially against the Braves. They like to blow leads. Again, the Mets had a 3-0 lead, and that's something that the last time they faced the Braves in Atlanta, each one of those games they had three-run leads, and they blew them. This time they kept it, and they held on to win that game, and they scored more runs, which is always helpful. So the New York Mets win game 1 of the series in Atlanta, 10-4 tomorrow. Tyler McGill is on the mound for the Mets. We'll see what happens, but I want to see. And the Padres are beating the Marlins, and that's another thing. There's teams that are facing each other that are in front of the Mets. Somebody's got to lose, so the Mets are going to gain a game on them. What you want is to be within. You want the Marlins, in particular, to get that third wild card spot by the time you start facing them. Be within 4 or 5 games when they're leading the third wild card spot because all that matters is that team that you play. You don't have to scoreboard watch. You just got to beat them because you face the Marlins. I think 6 more times. So that's important. So you hope the Marlins will get up there a little bit and get that wild card spot. So when the Mets face them, if you win within 4 or 5 games, well, guess what? All you got to do is beat that team in front of you. But we'll see what happens. The Mets still got a long road ahead. They got to be with about 12, 13 games over 500 for the remainder of the games. And you just hope something happens. Again, the Marlins are a game. The Marlins, the Reds, and the Diamondbacks, and the Giants and the Cubs. Even the second wild card is technically up for grabs. The Mets are what? 8 games out of the second wild card. I mean, it's all possible. It's crazy to me. Yeah, we do play the Phillies a bunch too, but again, it doesn't matter because even when the Phillies were doing really well, the Mets were terrible in June, and the Mets basically gift wrapped those games to the Phillies. So I think any one of those teams, from the Phillies all the way down to where the Mets are, all those teams are beatable, including the Mets. We'll see. You got to believe, right? We'll see if there's a miracle here because the Mets need it. They got to keep on playing well, and that's what the Mets have to do. So, once again, guys, before we end it, 10-4 Mets, game 1 of the series in Atlanta tomorrow. Tyler McGill is on the mound for the Mets. Let's see if the Mets can win game 2, take the series. It would be great to go into Wednesday to try to sweep the Braves because I'm going to tell you this right now, guys. The way Mets fans were acting on Twitter over the last 7 days with Pittsburgh and the Cardinals, how they creeped up in the wild card standings a little bit, they got excited. If you find a way to sweep the Braves somehow, some way, miraculously, coming back home to face the Angels, you're on a 10-game road trip. Angels, or 9-game road trip. Angels, Rangers, Mariners. Mets fans are going to get a little excited like there is some hope. We shall see. So, once again, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a pregame tomorrow. So, with that said, guys, Jake, thank you for the super chat. Buddy, the super sticker, I appreciate that, buddy. So, with that said, just win series. You win series here on out, you got a really goddamn good chance because the National League is garbage except for the really good teams like the Braves and the Dodgers. Other than that, everybody else, I think, is somewhat on the same playing field that are trying for a wild card spot. So with that said, 2 out of 3 against the Braves, I think will help with the confidence. Sweeping the Braves will even give this team more confidence because this team thrives on confidence. It's obvious. But the pressure's not really on the Mets yet. I guarantee you, if the Mets win tomorrow and going into Wednesday to sweep the series against the Braves, that's when people are going to start talking about them again, creeping up in the wild card. When the pressure is on, can they perform? That's what we need to know. And I like guys like the DJ Stewarts, Rafael Ortega's, Jonathan Arauz. Those guys are just go-getters. They just go after it 100% no matter what. They're not afraid. And I like that. Maybe that's trickling down to these actual guys that is the core of this team. Let's hope so. Because making a run will only be very shocking, but very exciting. Because why the hell not? Why not us? We shall see, guys. So Mets win 10-4. Game 2 tomorrow. Tyler McGill on the mound for the Mets. Let's see if they can take a series, guys. With that said, guys, everybody have a great night. Mets record is 59-67 on the season. I'll see you guys tomorrow. As always, Mets fans, let's go Mets. Have a great night, guys. Let's go Mets.